Hi, so this is a lesson for School of Developers. So this is just on how to make like a tie and a collar for like a suit almost. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to check to make sure that my template's good. Right here I have a little mark, so I'm just going to erase that. I always try to double check just to be sure, because something might have happened from the last time I used it. I'm using the advanced template, that's why it might look a bit unfamiliar to you. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my layer and my outlines folder, and I'm going to choose my color. I'm going to choose black because that's the typical color for a suit. And I'm going to start outlining a collar. Okay, so the first step for outlining a collar is to make the circle on the inside where the head goes. So you need a circle for the head because logically speaking, your head doesn't just magically go through. So I'm just going to start right around, 1 pixel. Okay, 1 pixel is a pretty good thing for outlines. 1 to 2 is typically where I go. I'm going to start over here, and I'm just going to make a little circle. It's not going to be a perfect circle, but that's okay, because it's not about perfection. It's about improving. Nothing is super precise typically in clothing. Like realistic clothing, it's not super precise, so that's okay. Okay, now I'm just gonna duplicate this layer, and then I'm going to flip it. So I'm hitting the duplicate layer, and then I'm gonna hit the flip one. Let me show you where it is first. So I'm gonna just draw a little arrow. So right there is the flip button. It's the little box with the arrow. So I'm gonna flip it. It's actually a transform, but I call it flip. Okay, flip it and then move it over so it's just in the center. I messed this up a little bit, so I'm going to reset it and then just do it again. This just makes it sure that everything is even on both sides. So I'm going to merge down so that way I don't have to worry about having a ton of layers. Okay, now you're going to want to make the outside of the collar. So I make my colors kind of weird, but that's okay. It's a little thick boy, you know? But that's fine. So I'm just going to drag this and then drag it over. It's not perfect, but that's fine. I don't really like it though. And I'm just going to drag all the way around. So colors are kind of like annoying to make sometimes because they never look right. I don't know how to better explain that. They just never look right. No matter how much you make them. Right, duplicate and then flip once again. The duplicate is the third button there. Okay, then boom, merge down. You have your collar, yay! I'm gonna make a new layer and then I'm gonna start making a little tie. So ties have like the little circle thing at the top, like the knot, okay? And then it goes down and out and then in again. So it's kind of hard to figure out how to make it look kind of natural, because it's not natural, but that's okay. So I'm gonna just do a little minor one, okay, like that. I feel like that looks pretty good for a tie. Now I'm gonna flip it. I forgot to make another layer, so it does have the little knot thing twice, but that's fine. Who cares? Okay, now I'm done with my outline, so I'm just gonna close my outline folder, and then I'm gonna make a new folder. And this folder is going to be my, filling folder. I'm not going to name it because I'm really lazy. Sorry, I made a little extra layer on accident. So I just made a new folder. Also, I use MediBang, so that's why the program might look a little bit unfamiliar for some of you. I use MediBang because it can be used on mobile or laptop, whatever. And I don't have my laptop anymore, so it's something that I can use and then transfer over whenever my laptop works again, which I don't know how long that's going to be. Okay, so now I'm just choosing a color to fill in. I don't want it to be too light. I don't want it to be too dark, because I am trying to shade this later on, and you can't shade black if it's the darkest shade. So now I'm just going to fill in underneath this outline layer, just so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to do it really, really hazardously. I'm not going to really worry about how good it looks right now, so I can just erase. You could spend a lot of time going in and filling it in perfectly, but I find it's easier to just erase excess than it is to fill perfectly the first time. So I'm just erasing the excess. While I'm doing this, I'm going to start telling you some tips for designing. So first off, like some major rules for deciding if you're gonna shade something, please don't use a shading template unless it's yours, because most shading templates honestly are really outdated, and a lot of outfits need a certain type of shading in order for it to be put together well. Also, if you're shading on white, you're gonna want to make, if you're doing highlights on white, you're gonna want to make the white a slightly like light gray. That way you can highlight still. And if you're doing black, you want to make it like a dark gray, so that way you can shade and highlight still. Okay, now I'm just erasing the excess on this side, and I'm just gonna flip it because flipping is so much easier than going and erasing everything, and it just looks even on both sides that way. And I like symmetry. So yeah. Right, now I'm going to flip it. Also, I did put the opacity down on these layers just to make it a little bit easier to erase. So now I'm going to put them back up and then merge those layers. And then I'm going to make a new folder for my shading and highlighting. I'm just going to put them in one because it's easier for me. So it might be a little bit hard to see what I'm doing because of the darkness of the colors, and I apologize for that. Whenever I was recording this, I didn't realize that I am recording this audio after recording the video. So I'm just going in and I'm doing little edges where you would normally find shading or shadows, just around edges, okay? I'm going to do a little bit here because I feel like there would be shading there too. Maybe some here. Okay, and then I'm going to go down here and just fill that in. So shading takes a lot of effort, a lot of practice. It's not going to be perfect your first time, probably not your 10th either. That's okay. It doesn't matter, at least you're improving. Now I'm going to go and smudge all the edges out so it looks a little bit softer. It's more of a shading and not a like harsh shading, but like a soft shading. So I'm just going in, scrubbing it down almost. I don't know how to better explain that. Just like gently moving it so it looks smoother. Also, a lot of my designs, if you've seen my designs in the past, they're not the smoothest designs. Like, they have a lot of harsh edges. I incorporate both harsh edges and smooth edges in my designs. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. And designing is all about figuring out what you like doing and what works for you. It's not really about what your customer wants, because once you figure out what you can do and want to do, then you can find customers for that instead of finding customers first, then figuring it out. I don't know if that made sense. Okay, now that I'm almost done with the soft, like, shading, I'm going to go in and start highlighting with a light gray. I'm just going to highlight anywhere that isn't shaded, basically, just so it looks nice and, like, adds depth. It just adds a little bit of character. So I'm just going to go in right here. I'm just going to do this whole thing. It'll be fine. So as you can see right now, it looks really light, but I can always change the opacity, so it doesn't really matter how light it looks, because it'll go away. It's fine. And then I'm just gonna do in the inside of the tie like this, a little bit of bubble right there. I'm gonna smudge it out. Smudging is like really fun, but time consuming. It just, if you mess up smudging, you have to redo it all, and that sucks. That's like one of the reasons I don't like smudging, but I also love smudging because it's just so satisfying seeing your piece come together finally. Okay, so then I'm gonna smudge this little piece out. Boom. Now it looks a little bit sparkly almost. No, not sparkly, but like shiny. So once again, this highlighting isn't perfect. If I wanted to make it perfect, this would be a lot longer of a video. I'm just trying to show you guys the basis of how to make these things so you can figure out how to do it, what way you want to do it. But at least this is some sort of guideline. Now I'm going to put down the opacity, and I'm going to go back to my fill layer, and I'm going to just change the brightness down a little bit so that way it just looks better. Like, it'll all come together once I do that, I feel like. So I'm going to filter, and I'm going to go to brightness, or well, hue, and then brightness. And I'm just going to turn the brightness up. Until I feel like it's sufficient. Right around there. Okay, so there. And then that's it. I hope you enjoyed. This is a lesson for school developers.